Hey there guys, I'm SonicGhost and welcome back to some more Let's Play Rayman 2 The Great Escape. Last time, we started the game as Rayman escaping a pirate ship with his friend Globox, unfortunately losing him in the process, and we completed our first level of the game, the Woods of Light. So with that said, we are now here in the Hall of Doors, ready to enter our second level of the game, the Fairy Glade. So let's just jump right into this. And right here in the beginning, we were introduced to yet another new mechanic of Rayman 2, swimming. Essentially, to swim in this game, all we need to do is press the same button that we used to strafe to sink in the water, and press the jump button to surface. So, it's pretty simple when you really think about it. It's just when you're playing this on a controller and the buttons on the game do not tell you what buttons you're using on the controller, it's pretty disorienting, really. So I'm not really used to the ZA, it's more like for me a trigger and the B button. So it's just kind of confusing. If I'd recommend playing this game on the PC, I honestly do recommend playing it with a controller instead of the keyboard. Simply because you just get a much smoother control scheme. You have an analog stick compared to just keys on a keyboard. It feels a lot more responsive, and this is a platformer, so you're going to want that control to be as responsive as it can be. But with that said, I should actually talk about a couple things about this game, because there are many different versions of this game. I mean, many different versions. This game was released on a multitude of platforms. Just to give you an idea of which platforms it was on, this game was released on the Nintendo 64, PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, Dreamcast, PC, DS, 3DS, and there's a Game Boy Color port of this game. Yeah, there's a lot of games. There is a lot of systems for this one game. It is ridiculous, and each version of the game, minus the PC and N64 versions of this game, are completely different. And that's the weirdest part, because with each version they added or taken away something, which is really, really weird. And that's why I feel like the definitive version of this game is essentially a combination of the N64 and PC version. If you're having a hard time playing this game, because this game's kind of buggy running on newer computers, then that's why I recommend just playing the game on the N64. That's what I ended up doing, and it's playable and everything. It's just that the graphics are going to be lower quality due to the fact it's on the N64, so it's not going to look as clean nor as polished, but it's still very playable, and it's a fun game. Nothing really was taken away from the experience on that console, so if you can't play it on PC, I recommend getting on the N64, but this game is like $6 on PC. It's cheap, so if you want to play this game, it's very easy to pick up on GOG.com, which is the version I'm playing for a very specific reason. If you are using the original PC release of this game and playing on a newer computer like I am, you're going to be running into some bugs. My computer is running Windows 7, so if I play the original Rayman 2 release, up to a certain point this game will work. Once we enter a certain level, that's when the game starts having issues. So that's why I'm playing with the GOG version. The GOG version of this game updated a bit and made it playable on newer computers, which is very good. If I tried to play the original release on this machine, I'd be having a lot of trouble, and I would just have to end up at that point probably finding a copy of Windows XP to boot into just to play this one game, which is a mess. So thank goodness for the GOG version. It fixes pretty much all those problems that you have. Although if you're going to have problems saving with this version of the game, it's because of where you install, because I was having some issues with saves, and from what I read up online, essentially if you install this place in the default area, which will be on your computer's C drive in the program files, it's not going to save properly. So this version, if you're just wanting to play the game, not really easy to get into, as I've been explaining, but I feel like it's the cleanest version of the game, and it still keeps that pure factor. But I think I went on long enough about that. If we go ahead in the first person, we actually hear that there's a cage. There's a cage actually in that window over here. We can't really do anything about that right now, so we're just gonna have to leave it and move on with the level. This level you cannot actually grab everything on your first go. You will be coming back to this level, but other levels in the game, minus this one, you can get everything in your first go. So that's what I'm going to be doing. With every level, I'm going to be going for all the lums and all the cages when we first enter them. This is the only exception. I'm just going to be grabbing as many as I can here. And those final 2 lums along with 1 cage, that's all we're going to be missing in the end. Those I'm just going to come back for later, because we can't grab them all on our first trip. We just don't have access to them. Simple as that. But back here, we actually got introduced to a minor little mechanic here in Rayman 2. There'll sometimes be these trail of red lums that you can go ahead and collect. This is just to give you a lot of extra health if you take way too much damage and need that health back. So in certain areas of the game, there will be certain red lums that you can touch that will trigger a trail of red lums to appear, which is very useful if you're low on health, but if you already have full health, it's just kind of there. And you can skip out on getting the rest of those red lums if you just feel like skipping out on the red lums. Simple as that. But we can't really go down this way right now because there's this door blocking the way. So if we stay on top and wait for one of these pirates to shoot us with a keg, it'll blow it right open. But we're getting a hint here from Murphy saying use our shadow and helicopter to help us platform our way over here. And we have another instance of these special red lums activating, giving us more health than what we would get normally. They still give the same amount of health, they're just more red lums. Well, let's go ahead and climb on the spiderweb here. Be very careful of these kegs falling from the ceiling. Well, not really falling from the ceiling, they're falling more from the wall. Okay, gotta be careful here. Sometimes in the end, I just get blindsided by one of those things because they never really expect where they're coming out of. They don't really follow a set pattern, they just kind of randomly swap between one or the other being dropped, so you gotta be very careful not to have one of those kicks dropped on your head. Careful, there are a lot of pirates in the area. There's a good chance that you'll have to fight one. To move around during combat, you can go ahead and press the control key. This will allow you to keep your enemy targeted and make it easier to avoid his shots. So that's the strafing ability that I talked about earlier. When we're fighting a pirate, we can go ahead and hold down that strafe button, and this will make fighting a lot easier as we're always locked on and our shots will home in on the enemy. So this makes combat a heck of a lot easier if you're just trying to fight him by himself. Luckily, if you've noticed already by how my shots are being fired, you notice that they're being bounced off the walls, which is a very useful thing. If you miss, they'll just bounce and hit him again, which is good. This is one of my favorite parts right here. Hi, pirate. Bye, pirate. Just throw a kick at him and he dies instantly. If the enemy gets triggered, as you saw, this gate will go up, meaning you can't climb up. So I didn't really mean to wake him up, but actually that was kind of a good thing I did just to demonstrate, hey, if you're spotted by that pirate, you can't progress. Kill him. While you're at it, use the keg. It's a one shot. And it's really useful since some of these pirates take a lot of damage, so they can take a bit to get killed. Let's go ahead and grab more of those lums from that cage. And let's push on forward. Now, you're not going to be noticing in the videos, I'm producing these videos in 30 frames, but the one thing I do want to mention about this PC port, which is very inconsistent, really. I tried recording this game in the past, and what I tried recording it with was Fraps, and I had a lot of issues with it, just simply because of how the program is working. This game has a very inconsistent frame rate, I noticed. It will constantly swap between 30 frames and 60 frames. It never stays on one. It is so weird, and I cannot explain why it does that. I'm just thinking that the game on PC is trying to run at 60 frames due to hardware, but the game isn't really designed for it, so it just keeps on fluctuating. And it's really weird. When I put the videos in editing and I swap between 60 and 30 frames, I could barely notice a difference, but at some points I can, which is really inconsistent. I believe all other versions of Rayman 2 and the old hardware is at 30 frames, so it's weird to see the PC version just fluctuate. And if you're a frame rate nut, you'll probably notice it. I don't notice it right away. Sometimes if I notice the game chugging, I think it's the frame rate drop, but it's something you really have to look for. But we found Lee, and we have to now free her of that barrier in order to actually get more power from her. So if we head down here, we have ourselves another keg. And now we're getting explained to essentially how to throw keg. So there are two different throws that we can do. If we press the jump button, you'll throw the keg up in the air and then you can grab it again. This is a very useful move just for the sake of trying to kill an enemy in front of you. So if you want to keep that keg, but still kill that drone that's heading your way, or in this case a bomb. It's a bomb drone, how about that? We're just calling it a bomb drone. So if you want to kill this bomb drone here, you just throw it in the air, shoot, and grab it. We need to keep these kegs as we need to blow up this generator here, so we don't want to get hit. I mean, that would really hurt if we get hit right now with an explosive keg. I mean, it's just me here saying this, but I'd rather not have this explosive get hit, causing it to explode in my hands. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I should have all my non-limbs stay intact. Yeah, and that's another thing I should probably mention. Rayman has no limbs. Don't know how his hands and feet are just staying right there at him at all times, but magic. Lee, are you okay? Oh, Rayman, at last. I was afraid Globox had failed. He gave me the silver lum, but we got separated. I need to find him and get rid of the pirates. But to do that, I'll need all my powers. I am too weak to give you back all of your powers. I broke the primordial energy core into 1,000 lums, and combining the energy has been very difficult. But there may be another solution. Have you ever heard of Polocus? No. He's the spirit of the world. His power is immense. He could help you defeat the pirates. Unfortunately, he has been sleeping for many years. But there is a legend which says he can be awakened if you reunite the 4 masks. The 4 masks? These masks are magical and very powerful. They are hidden in secret and mysterious places. Find them, Rayman. It's our only hope. I'll help you by giving you all the energy I've gathered. Good luck, Rayman. Now you can grab onto the purple lums. Alright, so we have ourselves a new ability now, which is essentially like the grapple hook from The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, if you ever played that. Essentially all we do here is shoot this purple lum, and we just lasso onto it, which is a very useful maneuver just to pass our way over these bottomless pits or any other area that we can't really jump over normally. So we will be using that skill quite a lot throughout our adventure, but let's go ahead and press on to the end of the Fairy Glade. This is our final section. And right now I feel like this is probably the best time to talk about it, as we kind of have a long fall to just kind of fly our way down here. But one of the things that's different between each version of Rayman 2 is actually voice acting. In later versions of Rayman 2, they actually added in voice acting for the characters. In the original N64 and PC releases of this game at least, all you had for voice acting was just these mumbles, kind of like Banjo-Kazooie in a way, where they just make sound effects when they're talking, but they're not actually talking English or any other language. But in later releases, they changed that. The characters do actually speak. And it's pretty cool that you have voice acting in later games, although in some of the earlier versions of the voice acting games, the voices were kinda, to say the least. You see these air currents, Rayman? Activate your helicopter in them, and you'll fly. Well, that's really useful, so just standing in one of these little tornadoes, we can go ahead and just fly right up using our helicopter ability. That is really cool, and this was one of my favorite parts of the game playing it as a kid. Just being able to fly like this, even though it really isn't for that much of time, and it's really only in certain sections. It was just a really cool idea to see. Although playing this part of the game years later, it's still cool to look at. It's just it takes forever to get back to the top if you fall. So don't fall. This room becomes more of an annoyance if you fall. But there are lums actually in these little wind currents here. So we will be wanting to go in pretty much all these currents that we see and pick up all the lums inside of them. In fact, this one over here is kind of easy to miss actually, so we are not wanting to miss this one. You gotta be careful about these lums on the very edge. As you saw when I first tried to grab lums in this section, I actually fell down because I was a little too low when I reactivated the helicopter move. So you can't be too low into these little wind currents, otherwise you won't be able to fly and you'll just drop down. So you do have to keep that in mind for collecting these lums on the very edge of each one of these tornadoes. Just have to be very careful here. There we go, we got ourselves 45 of the 50 lums. That means we only have 3 more left, then we'll have all the lums in the parts of the level that we have accessible to us right now. So just grab these 2 in this wind turbine, and then we should only have 1 more, which should be in this final one over here. There it is. That's 48 lums. So we have 48 lums and 5 out of 7 cages, but there's one right here that we can hear, so let's go ahead and break open that cage. But there we go, we broke open the cage and we're getting told break open the cages and they will make us less vulnerable because of the energy inside. After every 10 cages, I believe, your health will increase. So it won't increase to this level, but maybe next level there's enough cages. We'll see. That is the end of the Fairy Glade. We got everything that we can get here right now. It's just 1 cage and 2 lums that we cannot get our first visit. We will be coming back to the Fairy Glade later on, so we really won't be worrying about this all too much right now. Instead, we'll just move on, and hopefully soon enough we'll find out where one of these 4 masks are to awaken Polocus. But with that said, I'm gonna go ahead and end the episode here, guys. So next time on Let's Play Rayman 2 The Great Escape, we'll head into our next level here, the Marshes of Awakening. I'll see you guys next time.